I had sent a message to
Yeah, I saw that.
Gulshan.
Oh,
Oh,
Gulshan,
yes,
is it? Oh,
Gulshan,
no,
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 yeah.
no, sorry. Yeah, I thought.
That
Yeah, he couldn't have seen Gulshan.
No.
but Bhakti Mala's one.
Mm.
Yeah. That now he's on holiday. If he's got more free time, he's welcome to join us on Saturdays.
Ah,
So I told him that, that he's most welcome to join in. And I said the added bonus is that he would get to see you. So that
yeah,
might draw him in.
we have been talking. I think I talked to him day before yesterday and checking in.
Okay. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. I just check on him, yeah. And we just call each
Good.
other for some time and see how he's doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. I think today he's free, but maybe he's not. He's doing something. I don't
Yeah, it might not have occurred to him that he could
know.
join in on Saturdays. I just wanted to let him know that he's most welcome to
Oh, yeah.
if he's ever free. I mean, he's always been welcome to, but it might not have occurred to him because he's always just been Thursday, Thursday, Thursday. So it just might not have registered that he can.
Mm-hmm. Good idea, I think.
Well, yeah, and I also knew that sometimes he was with his daughter on Saturdays and sometimes serving at the Bhakti Tree. But now, he's got a break from that. So let's see. He might turn up one Saturday. Okay, so we're continuing our reading of Sri Caitanya Charitamrita, Madhya-lila, chapter 19, entitled The Lord Instructs Srila Rupa Goswami. I think it's text 228. But yeah,
Yep.
let's offer respect to Lord Chaitanya and his associates first. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Oh. Does that sound right? I was thinking it's 228.
Yeah, 228. Yeah, that's sounds right to me as well. I was looking at just before, and I can
Yeah,
call some of the stuff there. It's
yeah,
just yeah. I think so. Yeah, you're right. 228.
yeah.
So
So
we are on.
just to recap on last week. So now we're started on talking about Vatsalya Rasa, so parental love.
Yep.
Parental love, and 227 had said that so now the difference between this Sakya and then moving on to Vatsalya Ras is even more intimacy. So there was already intimacy in that friendly relationship,
Yep.
but even more intimacy. More intimacy to the point, and that it gives an example in this verse that even sometimes the devotee in that parental mood will chastise Krishna. So that obviously is a lot of intimacy that they would come to that point of just seeing him like that as a child and sometime punish, chastise like that. So definitely no formality at all, no thinking that he's greater than me, he's God, nothing like that. So there's no consideration that he's God, that he's greater or anything like that. He's just my little naughty child. That's it, like that. Mm.
Mm.
But any chastisement given by Krishna's parents is fully done out of love, fully done out of love. Um, and that's why Krishna allows them that freedom to do that, because they're doing that out of love. Like I've said, Krishna cannot be forcibly controlled by anyone.
Mm.
Many demons like Kamsa, Jarasandha, Ravana, so forth, try to control the Lord, and it's not possible. But just out of love, he becomes controlled. And that's actually one of Krishna's qualities, that he's actually controlled by love. And that's called prema vasya. Prema vasya, that he's controlled. Vasya means controlled. So he's controlled by prema. So if a devotee comes on that platform of prema, then and only then is it possible to control Krishna. Hmm. And they're not thinking they're controlling God. They're thinking they're just controlling their child like that. Mm, mm. And Krishna likes that. He enjoys that because he's always, usually acting in that role that he's the controller. That's another one of Krishna's qualities. Varian Ishvara. Varian Ishvara. So he's like the supreme controller. So normally he's acting in that role that he's the supreme controller. But it gets boring if that's all you're doing is like controlling all the time. So he wants to be controlled sometimes. So who's he going to be controlled by? Not a non-devotee, but if a pure devotee, then he'll come under control of the pure devotee's love. And he enjoys that. You want to say anything about that?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, yeah, we just talking of Krishna, but this Ras is, I mean, we can see in our lives as well. I mean, these are all
Hmm.
in our lives as well, even if it's a materialistic life, but we can see that if I'm rebuking my child, I'm saying it because I love and care about him.
Hmm.
Maybe there are certain instances where you don't do that. Some parents may not do that, but most of the time it's out of love rather than you care about them. So it's just basically these rasa reflection of the ideal relationship in the material world as well. I mean, if you have that, I mean,
Hmm.
it's more like, since, and it's a way of saying that because we felt that. I mean, you are a parent, I'm a parent. We have felt that kind of a thing, right? You care about your
Hmm.
child. You
Yeah.
might chastise them or rebuke them, and same
Hmm.
goes with us. So it's so we are able to understand Krishna more, I guess, in terms of that relationship, that he has the similar relationship. So these
Yeah.
relationships are same in the spiritual world as well, or it's like it's just the material world relationships or rasas.
No, 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 no. Well, I mean, this is talking about, yeah, the spiritual world. So everything that's here is in the spiritual world. So this is called a perverted
Okay.
reflection of the spiritual world. So Krishna is the origin of everything. So nothing can exist without its source being in Krishna. Only in relationship with Krishna, it's pure. But
Mm,
without Krishna, it becomes, so
yeah.
many difficulties are there. And but also another angle is that we can understand something about God by looking at our own life,
Mm,
because we're part of Him. So just like we like to extend our enjoyment by creating a family, we like to have a wife, have kids or whatever, that extends our enjoyment. So Krishna also expands his enjoyment by expanding into all these parts and parcels, and then likes to have loving relationships with them. So just like we have loving relationship with our wife, our kids, and like that. So Krishna also is doing that. And yeah, so by looking at our own lives, we can understand something about God, how he ticks. We know how we tick,
mm,
so we can also understand a little something about how Krishna ticks also. And so we're searching for love. He is also looking for that love like that.
mm.
And
The other angle I was thinking, I mean, it's just speculative. I mean, because he said, "You are my part and parcel." I mean, he's like father, to us. So the suffering we are suffering in this material world, it's kind of
mm,
chastisement and rebuke, but it's out of love. It's kind of vatsalya. I mean, in terms, I'm just imagining things, but it's
yeah,
there's some kind of a thing, like he just
definitely,
suffering is
definitely.
chastisements and rebukes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a very good point. And that's true. I was just hearing Prabhupada talk about that the other day. And that's definitely. And also Prabhupada was mentioning that Krishna is very distress. He's in distress that we're suffering, just like we would be, right? Imagine your children left home and they're suffering somewhere out there in Sydney streets. You'd be in complete anxiety.
Yes.
So Krishna is also in anxiety and distress. Prabhupada was mentioning that the souls are suffering in the material world. And he wants them to come home, just like what we would want our kids to come home, if they're not happy, So like that, and that's why the pure devotee who's preaching his glories, trying to attract the fallen souls, is very dear to Krishna, because they're bringing those lost children home. They're bringing those lost children home. So imagine one of the children comes back home, and then he goes out to bring more home, then it'd be very dear to the parent like that. So the pure devotee like Prabhupada is, bringing in so many souls back to Krishna becomes very dear to Krishna like that. So yeah, if we think, deeply about our own lives, then we can also understand about Krishna's personality also, how compassionate he is and how, unhappy he is to see others suffer like that. And he's very soft-hearted. Mm. Very compassionate. Mm. Okay, so let's look at this verse. Apanare palaka jnana krishne palya jnana chari gune vatsalya rasa amrita samana.
Apnare palaka jnana Krishna palaya jnana chari gune vatsalya rasa amrit samana. On the platform of parental love, the devotee consider himself the Lord's maintainer. Thus, the Lord is the object of maintenance, like a son, and therefore this mellow is full of the qualities of four rasas: Sant, Dasya, fraternity, and parental love. This is more transcendental nectar.
Mm. So the word jnana is mentioned twice. Jnana is mentioned twice in this verse. So what knowledge do they have? Jnana's knowledge. So what knowledge do they have? They have knowledge that their understanding is that they're Krishna's caretaker. They're protecting him. Palaka means like protecting or like caretaker, is mentioned caretaker. So they're protecting Krishna. That's the understanding they have, that their responsibility is to protect Krishna, as a parent is thinking, oh, I have to protect my family. And that Krishna needs protection. Krishna palya jnana. So that he's the object of protection, palya. So that I'm giving protection and Krishna's receiving that protection. He needs that protection. He's being protected by me, like that. Mm. So they're not thinking that, oh, Krishna's God. He's looking after everyone else. He doesn't need anything. So they're not thinking that Krishna doesn't need anything. They're thinking he needs lots of things. If I don't feed him, he'll be hungry. If I don't give him a bath, he'll be dirty. If I don't look after him, he'll get injured, he'll get hurt. So they're thinking he needs me to maintain him, to look after him and everything like that. Without me, he can't survive. That's what they're thinking. Actually, the tattva is that we all need God for our survival. We can't, he's maintaining and protecting all of us. But in this Vatsalya Bhava, Vatsalya Rasa, it's the opposite. They're thinking that without them, Krishna can't survive. It's very sweet, and Krishna enjoys that. Krishna enjoys that. And he really plays that role that he's helpless.
Yeah.
He really plays that role. He loves it. He enjoys it so much. And yeah, that he gets hungry, wanting, mother showed his breast milk or whatever like that. Like that's why there's that pastime where he broke all the pots and then ended up getting tied up, because what happened before that? Krishna was crying, and then Mother Yashoda came and realized he was hungry. And then she's giving her breast milk. And then the pot of milk on the stove boiled over. And she put Krishna down to attend the pot to take it off the stove. But Krishna was angry that, he wasn't satisfied. So then he went on a rampage and breaking pots and things. And that's when she punished him by chasing him and then finally caught him. And she chased him with a stick and then finally caught him and then tried tying him up. But it was always short. And then she had more ropes, more ropes, more ropes. And finally, Krishna allowed her to tie him up. And then he was tied to wood and grinding mortar. But yeah, that's showing all these things, like the previous virtue mentioned how, but sometimes punishment like that. And but Krishna is sort of acting in that role that he needs her to supply food and all these kind of things. And she's in ecstasy, like it's mentioned here. This is more transcendental nectar. So Amrita Samana. So this is the nectar of Vatsalya Rasa. There's so much nectar that Krishna's depending on me. Krishna needs me like that. And we all know as a parent, right? There's certain flavors and sweetness there. You got your helpless child is like depending on you, and you feel really good that you're providing for the child and everything. And that's why, like, you go out, work so hard, isn't it?
Mm.
Why do you go out to the office, work so hard, everything, it has difficulties, tapasya to go, in traffic and working in the office and the factory or whatever. But you feel so much satisfaction that what you're earning or whatever can be used for, helping your child to grow up nicely and everything. And when you see the child happy, you feel it's all worthwhile, like that. So, you want to say anything about that?
I think yeah, as you said. I mean, there are moments where you really enjoy being a parent. Sometimes they're doing simple mischief stuff or doing something good or something. It's just and then and you must have heard. I mean, when the child grow up, then you remember what they used to do when they were young or something.
Mm.
When they are under your care.
Mm.
And, yeah,
Yeah.
I can definitely relate to what's going on
Mm.
there.
Mm. So as mentioned here, this rasa has all the qualities of the previous rasas, plus more, like that. So it's that quality of service which came in at dasya rasa, that's still continuing on, but the flavors of that service are changing. Because remember in dasya rasa, the service was with formality, and
Yes.
then when we went to sakya rasa, that was without formality, but a feeling of equality was there. Equality and intimacy. Equality and intimacy. Now it's gone to not equality, now it's gone to superiority, right? Superior. Now the parent means superior, right? So now, because you have inferior, equal, and superior. So now we've gone from, because Dasharasa is like inferior, Sakya is equal, and Vatsalya is superior. So now there's a feeling of superiority and giving protection, everything like that. So different flavors. So you're getting a lot of different flavors coming in,
I was
and
just
more
wondering.
and more condensed. What's that?
I was wondering what kind of instances would there be between in Vatsalyaras of fraternity? Is it like when they are a bit older, or you are playing with them, or something like that kind of thing? I was just thinking. I mean, those what fraternity qualities or kind of instances, or where you have those quality of fraternity. Maybe you're playing with them as equal. Role playing or something. Yeah. So I was just I'm just trying to
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Like you're playing games, and like I mentioned with that big politician had his grandchild on his back, riding on his back.
Yeah.
So that's a very friendly kind of playing games and everything like that.
Yeah.
So at that time, you're not really acting as a parent, are you? Because you're just
Yeah.
playing with them.
Thing.
Yeah, so like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Mm.
And definitely, you know, that Dasiras likes rendering service is also there. Because, like you're cleaning up after your
Yeah.
child,
Mm.
cooking for the child,
Yeah.
giving him a bath, everything. There's a lot of menial service. There's a lot of menial service, heaps of menial service.
Yeah, that's true.
Like that, heaps of menial service. So like, you're going out to work to provide for the kids and that, so that education, everything. So that's all dusty us, like that. So, working like that. So yeah, it's got so many flavors there in this Vatsalya Ras. Mm. Okay, let's go on to the next one, 229. Say Amritanande Bhakta Sahadubena Apane Krishna Bhakta Vasha Guna Kahe Aishwarya Gyani Gane.
The exchange of spiritual happiness between Krishna and his devotee, in which Krishna is controlled by his devotee, is compared to an ocean of nectar into which the devotee and Krishna plunge. And this is the verdict of learned scholars who appreciate Krishna's opulence.
So this is where the difference is between our relationships and Krishna and his devotees. It's like spiritual happiness. So this is there is definitely a difference. So we've talked about there's some similarities there, which is there between like our parental relationship in the material world and parental in the spiritual world. So there are similarities, but there are differences also. So this kind of relationship is giving unlimited happiness. This called Brahma Sokyam Twanantam. Rishabh says in the fifth canto, you would have read it there, that the spiritual happiness, Brahma Sokya, so Sokya is happiness, Brahma means spiritual, Twanantam, Anantam means unlimited. So it's unlimited. Spiritual happiness is unlimited, whereas the material happiness is limited and unfortunately temporary. Like what we all face. Like my kids have grown up and they're gone. So whereas in the spiritual world, Krishna's parent is the parent eternally, and Krishna is the child eternally. So
Mm.
Krishna always remains the child. Like there's places like that in the spiritual world where Krishna never grows old and like leaves the home. He's always just that child of Mother Yashoda. So like that, then those pastimes are going on eternally. Krishna's never saying, "Hey, mum and dad, I'm leaving. See you later." He never grows old and then, gets married and so forth and leaves home. She can always, Krishna's mother and father can eternally relish that happiness. So that's a big difference that the happiness in the material world, one point is that it gets cut off, whereas in the spiritual world it never gets cut off. Another point is that even when it is there, relationships in the material world, the happiness is very much smaller than the happiness that's in the spiritual world, because we have these bodies and minds which have so many limitations and packed up with so many kinds of sufferings. And we have false egos. We all have our false egos and our crazy minds and so forth. Whereas in the spiritual world, there's no false ego, there's no crazy mind. You've got spiritual senses which are unlimited in their capacity to give service and also to receive enjoyment and like that. And We see even like this recent we see this recent plane crash, right? In Gujarat in India. India, what is it? Indian
Ahmedabad,
Airlines. Yeah,
Indian
and made
Airlines.
about that there was like I saw one post of a whole family, like two parents and three kids, and they
Mm.
were all on the flight. They all died, obviously. So, the parents, their role is to protect the kids, but they couldn't even protect themselves, what to speak of the kids. So they all died, So where was the kids needed protection, but the parents couldn't give protection. Not only the parents couldn't give protection to the kids, they couldn't even protect themselves. So, I mean, like that, there's so many flaws in our material relationships. Um,
It's like it's not.
Sometimes, like even in my case, there was a divorce. So, the kids were taken out of my hands and I couldn't, even though I'm still living, but I couldn't give them any protection. And I mean, Krishna protected them and ultimately he protects everyone. But like that, there's so many things in our material relationships that are not really so good. And that way we can't really compare them with the spiritual relationships. Like I said, the spiritual is completely pure, whereas our material relationships, there's many impurities there. We definitely have a desire to love, to give love and receive love, but there's many restrictions and limitations that we face like that.
Mhm.
And we get frustrated by that because we want to give service, we want to love, we want to give service, and we want to receive love from others. But there's many limitations that are very frustrating like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. I
You
think
know,
yeah,
like, like even the children rebel, and like that, and creates problems like, and especially like in modern day society, so many kids they end up taking drugs when they're teenagers and so many things and it creates so much distress for the parents and things like that and there's so many thousands of different permutations of what can go wrong, but in the spiritual world nothing no there's no negative things like that.
I think yeah, that's the ideal. I mean, I mean, it's true in spiritual world. That's the ideal relationship. But in, as
Yeah.
you said, ideal there is variation because of so many things. Ego is there, false ego is there, and then society is like that. So you have so many variations. So you might be, it's not always that parent care about, child. In some cases, parents don't even care about kids. So that these kind
Mm,
of fluctuation,
yeah,
variations are there. So
yeah,
that's ideal one where I mean it's perfect because it's in perfect world, spiritual world. But
yes,
here, real world is impacted by three guna, three guns. It's
yeah, the
it's
free
it's
goodness, yeah. Yeah, and also there's Janma Mrityu Jaravyati, birth, death, old age, and disease. So in the spiritual, there's no birth, no old age, no disease, no death, and there's no Tamagun, Rajagun. It's all Shuddha Sattva, which means pure goodness. There's all Shuddha Sattva. So it's a much nicer environment to try to have the relationships in.
it's just the kind of it's kind of a window seeing that that's the perfect way. That's what you can achieve. That level if you are God conscious and follow His instructions, I guess, or
Hmm.
follow what. Yeah, I mean, so that can be achieved. I mean, what you can achieve. I mean, the ideal relationship probably. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, that's an
And like,
inspiration.
what if you want to have your Vatsalya Rasa in Israel or Iran?
Mm.
Or Ukraine or Russia. It's like so distressful. You can't, you just complete anxiety. The relationships become very dysfunctional. You're just trying to survive. So where's the happiness? There's not much happiness.
Hmm. I think in this kind of a situation, probably there's more a particular kind. So if mother in there in Israel or say in Palestine, she's more protective of her child. She's thinking about, kind of. I mean, there is both sides to it. It's very difficult, but mother never leaves, the child. They'll try to protect, the father will try to protect them, right? So
Yeah.
it's more intense probably that's in there, but it's not ideal because you are in, everything is falling around you.
Yeah, well, you will see.
Yes.
See the differences. See, Mother showed us an anxiety
Mm.
if she thinks Krish is in danger, right? But see, this is where the difference is that, okay, she's in anxiety, but that's a spiritual anxiety. So what does that mean? She's worried about Krishna. Krishna's gone out to herd the cows, right? And she's worried that some demons are going to attack Krishna, right? So what does that anxiety result in? She thinks about Krishna more. So her thinking about Krishna, her meditation on Krishna intensifies because Krishna might get attacked by a demon. What's going to happen? I'm not there. How is he going to be safe without me to protect him and everything? So she's concentrating on Krishna more. And and what does that result in? Okay, you're thinking more about God than what you were before when you weren't in anxiety. But what's the nature of God? And that's what one of Krishna's qualities. Satchid Ananda Sandra Nanda.
No, no.
No, Sandra
Hanga.
Sandranga.
Sanrang.
Sandranga. So he's a constant his nature is concentrated eternity, knowledge and bliss. So it's like this
Vigraha.
condensed form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. So you're in anxiety about Krishna, so you're thinking about him more. So what are you thinking about? You're thinking about Krishna, who is eternal, full of knowledge and concentrated bliss. So what happens to you by meditating more on him? That you become more blissful because you're concentrating on someone that's blissful. His nature is bliss. But now let's take that into the material world. I'm in anxiety about my kid that's getting bombed in Iran or Israel. And but that you're concentrating on that kid, but what's the nature of that kid?
Miserable.
As Asat Achit Nirananda, their temporary body full of ignorance and suffering. So what is that going to reflect onto you? It's just suffering. So you're just going to be just purely suffering. Whereas in the spiritual world, that when they're trying to protect Krishna and everything, even though it seems like there's some anxieties there, but those anxieties actually lead to more bliss. So that's what it's saying here. It's just it's just more and more nectar, more and more bliss, because your absorption in Krishna, who is full of bliss, is just increasing, and that's increasing your bliss. The more you think about Krishna, the more blissful you become. So all these difficult situations that Krishna arranges are just making the devotee actually more and more happy, which
Mm.
doesn't work like that in the material world. You're trying to protect that child, but because the nature of the child is not such at an under, it doesn't have such a positive outcome. Does
What
that make
about if
sense?
what about if the parents are become more God conscious at that point? They are in trouble because they can't control things. They become more God conscious and they're protecting it. In that scenario, um, they are
Yeah,
thinking,
well,
"Yeah,
as soon as you bring God into the equation, then immediately you've spiritualized it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
So
if you
if you
have,
realize, I can't help my child, only Krishna can help, then you've tapped in, then you're spiritually connected, and that's definitely going to change the scenario like
and
that.
I'm sure the people who are in that war-torn country, and if things are happening, they must be calling out for God. They'll say,
Oh,
God,
of course. So I mean, there are positive aspects to what I'm saying too. So yeah, it can definitely make one more God conscious, you know.
yeah, mm,
So,
yeah,
but yeah, I'm just pointing out there's definitely
yeah.
differences between the happiness we feel in our material relationships and the happiness devotees feel in their spiritual relationships with Krishna. So there are similarities, which there are, but there are also differences where you can't compare. And if we really want to taste the ultimate relationships, then we have to go to the spiritual world. Have to go to the spiritual world. Because this environment of being in the material world does not allow us to fully taste the nectar that we're looking for. We want to have loving relationships in terms of Dasyaras, Sakyaras, Vatsalyaras, Madhuryaras. We're hankering for that. We're searching for that, but we can't fully taste any of those flavors in the material world because it's the wrong environment. Like we were saying, looking for water in the desert. You're not going to get it. Water is there, but not in the desert. You have to go out of the desert to get the water. The water in the desert's a mirage. So we're looking for happiness in the material world, thinking we'll get that from all these different kind of relationships. But it's never going to fully satisfy. It's just like a drop of water. Because in the desert, you might get a drop of water, but that just makes you more thirsty. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, one is
So
perfect.
I'm not saying there's no happiness in material relationships, and Prabhupada explains that too. There is some happiness in material relationships, but there's a danger in that. That the danger in finding a little bit of happiness, what do you think that might be? What's the problem? And you do find a little bit of happiness in your relationships in the material world.
You
When
want to
you're
continue in the material.
too attached, then
You
you
become attached, yep. Yeah, and Johnny said you want to continue in the material world. So that's the problem. You think, if you find that drop of water, you think, oh, maybe I can find the water. So you keep searching, but you're never going to find it. You're just getting one drop, and then one drop, then one drop. But does that satisfy you? No, you want a whole jug full of water, not one drop. But you're getting that one drop, and the most dangerous kind of happiness in the material world is the sex life, because that sex life is said to be the greatest happiness in the material world, right? The pleasure from sex is the greatest pleasure in the material world. So that's like the biggest drop, one drop. So when you taste that, then you think, oh, I can get it. So you're always hopeful. You then have a hope that I can be happy in the material world. I can create a nice, comfortable place in the material world and live happily ever after. And you see that in the movies, right? And they see the couple walk off into the sunset and it says they live happily ever after. But of course, we know that doesn't exist. There is no happily ever after. But it gives us that hope. When we taste that little bit of happiness, we become conditioned to thinking that, I can be happy in the material. And that is our disease. That is what keeps us in the material world, life after life, birth after birth, is that little bit of a hope that, we can find happiness in the material world. So that creates problems. That creates problems. So therefore the scriptures point out that this is not what you really want, this drop of happiness. You want an ocean of happiness. You want an ocean of happiness, not just a drop. And this is actually causing a problem for you.
what you're saying is that you're just tasting the sample. You haven't tasted the real product.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, I mean it's ignorance as well. I mean, people who
Yeah.
don't know that this is you can achieve this much, the ideal relationship, and then the maximum happiness. They don't have that knowledge. They just that's why they're running after the as you said, the material happiness, temporary,
Mm,
transient.
mm.
And it's just, I think, difference. They're not looking for it. Say why I'm not happy 24/7. The question
Yeah.
is like, so they never ask that question because the society never
No,
teach you.
no, no. And we're educated to think, well, that's all there is in life. You just get a drop here and a drop there and a drop here and a drop there. But when you get this knowledge, we realize, well, there's a whole ocean available. So why are we going to settle for a drop when you can get a whole ocean like that? So that's the thing. But people are not presented with this kind of knowledge that there's an ocean of bliss, this is mentioned
Yeah.
in that verse. This
Ocean's neck.
Amrita Samana,
Yeah.
this Vatsalya Rasa Amrita Samana, this like just unlimited nectar and Amrit and like that. So people just said, well, I get a few minutes happiness here and there. That's as good as it gets, and you settle for that. But no, that's just lining us up for more miseries. Because then the thumb screws come on when old age kicks in, disease, and then finally death. And on our deathbed, then these materialistic people will just be completely lamenting that you just spoiled my life and you didn't fulfill all your desires, obviously, and we want to live longer, but we can't live longer, and we have unfulfilled desires. I didn't get the partner I wanted. I didn't get the house I wanted. I didn't get the money I wanted. And then you have to take birth again, to try to continue. I wanted to live longer, and I didn't get to be the CEO. I was only the vice president. I wasn't the president. So you have to take birth again to try to become the president, like that. And it's just that what this these unfulfilled material desires is what locks us in to samsara, the cycle of birth and death. And that's dangerous.
Mm,
That's very dangerous.
that's true.
And not necessarily in the next link in the cycle that you could become a human again. You
Mm.
could next life be a dog or a fly or a worm or depending on our karma and everything you know. And the thing is too, in order to maintain our families, our Vatsalya rasa, there might be animal killing involved. There might be, which often, like in my childhood family, I was brought up with, eating beef and sheep and fish and all kinds of creatures, which is all bad karma. And also intoxication, drinking, sometime having beer and rum and coke and so many things, and so there's intoxication. And then gambling is there and everything, and so there's all bad karma coming into the rasa, and that's going to line us up for not future is not looking good, next life's not looking good. So yeah, there's many traps in our material relationships. And like they're thinking, that we have such a beautiful family, jump on the plane, and then but because of your karma, you don't realize what karma is there. You don't realize that this is that a material nature is just going to take your whole family out today. You think I'm going to London, going to have a good life in London. It's sort of a very nice country there. But you don't realize that because of your past karma, your whole family is like just taken out, just in a second. It's all gone. So this is the danger. Any second, it's just boom. And this is the problem. And the happiness in the material world is called chapala. Chapala means very flickering. Boom. You're very happy, and then you can go to complete distress. So you're oscillating between happy and sad, happy, sad, happy, sad, happy, sad, like that. So.
Interestingly, some people have said because they all went away together,
Yeah.
in a way it was a good thing. It's something.
You hear what she said?
It's
Yeah,
something
yeah.
to think.
Well, it's just to satisfy yourself. I mean, well, what
Yeah.
is death in terms of, and that is basically controlled by God, right? I mean, that was their
Yeah,
time to go. I
Yeah.
mean, we shouldn't be, and we don't know whether it's good or bad. We thinking it's bad because the whole family is gone, but
yeah,
we don't know the system, God's system, why they went, why they, and as we
Yeah.
said, this life, this materialist life is not very ideal. I mean, it's to learn and get out of this world, but
Yeah.
they somehow, so we don't know what God's system is, what they did,
actually we
why.
don't even know. They could have been devotees too.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course. And I mean, they found a Balgopal Murti on the
Yeah,
plane, and they found Bhagavad Gita on the plane as it is. So many people, of course, are very spiritual minded. And that could be
I mean, and the
a stepping
Madhya-lila
stone.
Sampradaya comes from Gujarat.
Yeah, I know.
So
So a
every of
lot of
them.
Gujaratis are very pious, obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not saying that they're all going to go to a bad place, but what I'm saying, for those of us remaining,
Yeah.
we should see, wow, any moment
Yeah.
our relationships can
Yeah,
just be off.
Mm.
and in real life as well, people around you, you relate, your father, mother, or like my father died, my mother died, and they die, but we'd never think about that we're gonna die. I mean, we live like we'd never question it.
Yeah.
Why we are here? We gonna be dead. What's the point? I mean, all those things. It's the Maya, as you said. You have to have some kind of a mercy, connection, or devotees um touch, so that, or timing of the, timing in your life when you are, really suffering. That's the time when you think about those things, why I'm suffering and all those things. It's just it's just yeah, it's just being, getting to that point where you start asking questions, and then God brings things together, I guess.
Hmm.
But yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, it's very difficult to say somebody died. As Mataji said, they might be devotee, and they have completed everything, and they now back up to Godhead. So we are just speculating basically with our
Yeah.
material mind
Hmm.
that it's bad or it's good. Yeah, but
Yeah.
Hmm.
but I think whatever he does is all good. I mean, it may look, in from material perspective, it look bad, but
Hmm.
I don't think he can do anything wrong, anything bad to anyone. So yeah, it's just, and we were talking Vatsalya Ras, we are part and parcel of him. So
Hmm.
and you say, gave the example that how painful for him, for us to be here, and all those
Yeah.
things.
Hmm.
He's the
Yeah,
only
he's
one.
always trying to make arrangements to bring us back to Godhead. But
Yes,
see, our problem was we refused to follow his
yes,
instructions. That's our
yes,
problem. But he never gives up on us. He never
yeah.
gives up trying. But we're just rebels.
Mm,
And especially in Kali Yuga, we're like big rebels. We're really disobey his laws, like that. And there's very little dharma. There's very little, practice of dharma, following religious principles.
mm,
That's very weak in Kali Yuga. People just do whatever they like. Society is very atheistic. There's no God, there's no soul. And Prabhupada was so often preaching very heavily against the scientists. Why was that? Because the scientists are responsible for educating us that there's no God, and it's just life comes from chemicals. Life comes from matter, from chemicals, and it just started from a big bang, and we evolved from monkeys and all this kind of stuff. And just take God completely out of the picture. I was completely brought up without God in my life, completely atheistic upbringing. And that science can maintain us and protect us. So not that you need God to maintain you and protect you, but scientists can provide science can provide everything that we need, and protect us through science. So it sort of replaces God. So science becomes the modern God. Is like we worship science,
uh,
worship science, and all the technology and everything is going to save
it,
us. Now
it was,
AI and robots are going to give us everything we need.
I mean, I think if you're a sane person, you just look at yourself or somebody around you, and it's so complex things. It can't be by chance. It can't be by chance.
Yeah,
So it's,
yeah.
yeah, as you said, we are more, comfort to this body. We just want more comfortable, and I don't know. We are
Mm.
body oriented, basically, body and mind
Yeah,
oriented.
yeah, yeah.
That's
That's
causing
the
it.
main goal. The main goal, and for people in Kali Yuga, is just comfortable body, comfortable body. Yeah, but that's not the goal of life. According to the Vedas, the goal of life is to practice tapasya. That means voluntarily you accept, uncomfortable situations, and in order to detach yourself from the material world and progress spiritually, like that. So completely misdirected society. Mm. So let's see what what one we read here.
Yeah.
The exchange of spiritual happiness between Krishna and his devotee, in which Krishna is controlled by his devotee, is compared to an ocean of nectar in which the devotee and Krishna plunge. This is the verdict of learned scholars who appreciate Krishna's opulence. So yeah, not only we're talking about the devotee is tasting that ocean of nectar, but also Krishna is enjoying together with the devotee in that ocean of nectar. Mm. And this fact that the devotee and Krishna are enjoying nectar and their relationship together, that is decided, concluded by all the great learned scholars. So this isn't just some belief system of some fools. This is like all the great rishis and sages like Narada Muni, Parvat Muni, Angira Muni, and Vyasadeva, and all the Devas and Lord Shiva, Brahma, and like that. They're all have concluded that these spiritual relationships that the devotees have with God is just an ocean of nectar. So it's like a decided truth. This is like tattva. It's not like if you hear about in modern society, you say, I believe this, could be, I feel like that. It's not very solid, not very substantial. But this is not like that. This is not just some one person's belief system or something. This is like a solid fact etched in stone. All the great minds, all the, most intelligent persons in the universe have 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 concluded the same thing, that Krishna and his devotees are relishing, unlimited bliss together. So there should be no doubts about these kind of statements, that
Yeah.
there's an ocean of nectar in the relationship between Krishna and the devotees. It's a solid fact. So yeah, we should be very confident in what we're hearing here, that this is the goal of life, to try to achieve this, to get back to this loving relationship with Krishna.
Mm.
Mm. Do you want to see anything comes to mind to you?
Yeah, I was thinking, when you said that the verdict of learned scholars, so it's like, I remember that particular verse. I don't know, the meaning of that verse was that anything in the spiritual scriptures, we say we have to follow it, even if it looks contradicting. The example of Shank and Gomutra, sorry. Yeah,
Yes.
you just
Good.
follow, even though it's contradicting, you have to
Yeah.
follow it. I mean, even if you don't
Yeah.
understand, you haven't experienced it. Because
Yeah.
if sometimes happens, you haven't experienced something,
Yeah.
then you are hesitant, right?
Yeah.
But in this, it's saying you don't need to hesitate. You just follow it, and you will get the result which is stated. So that's,
Yeah.
yeah, this is that. Yeah, I mean, that's the manual. That's from God. You need to follow it. I mean, that kind of a faith and conviction you have to have. That kind of thing
Yeah. It's
to.
perfect knowledge. Yeah. You don't have to figure anything out yourself. Because that's what we do in modern society. We're always trying to figure things out for ourselves. But it's what we call mental speculation, right?
Mm.
So, but that's a very slow, painful process. And often you go around in circles, right?
Yeah.
My dad and I, we used to love to philosophize in the evenings together. I think this, maybe this, could be this. But we'd always come back to the same point at the end of hours of talking, that we don't know.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
true.
we
I
didn't
get.
know in the beginning, and after talking so much at the end, we still don't know. So that's a very painful process and not really getting anywhere. But this is already given to us. Okay, here it is. Here's the absolute truth. This is the goal of life, and here it is. You don't have to figure anything out. Maybe, could be. oh, this is your belief, but I believe something different. No, it's the same thing for everyone. It's
Yeah.
the same, truth for everyone. And this is good for everyone. It's not, oh, this is good for some Hindus or something. No, this is good for everyone. Krishna is the supreme enjoyer for everyone. Can enjoy with Krishna. Whether you're Hindu, Muslim, Christian, atheist, Buddhist, doesn't matter. This is on the spiritual platform. Because even this, looking at different religions and that's still on the material platform, but this goes beyond even religions. This is between the soul and the supreme soul, between Krishna and the individual soul. And yeah, it's already been worked out, for thousands of years ago. And the beautiful thing, like with the Vedas, they're never changed. They're always the same. It's always the same knowledge. If it's getting changed, it means it wasn't perfect before, and you
Not
know,
true.
it wasn't true then. It's not true now either, because you'll come up with a new theory in a few years' time and throw the old one out. So we're never actually working with the truth in modern society. It's just different speculations. But this is
Yeah.
the actual tattva, the
Mm.
eternal truths. So we should feel really reassured and really confident by this. We're so fortunate to have found the absolute truth like that. And this is all good for everyone, all auspicious. And that's one of Krishna's qualities, Sava Shubhakara, that he's all auspicious. It's good for everyone. Mm. And something I was just thinking about, the last word, the last two words, Krishna's opulence. This is the verdict of learned scholars who appreciate Krishna's opulence. So I was thinking, what does this mean that the learned scholars are appreciating Krishna's opulence?
They're appreciating his qualities, is it?
I'm
They're
still
just
digesting those words, that the scholars appreciating Krishna's opulence. Just what's coming to me right now is because in the context of what we're talking about, that
It's because this is created by Krishna. All these relations, all this, everything is
everything is opulence
it's
only.
basic. If we are feeling happy, spiritual happiness, it's because he has created it, and
mm,
it's all his energy basically. So he has created that.
mm,
So it's part of his
mm,
opulence. And then if we are feeling happy, that's because of his opulence. I mean,
mm,
that's what I think. I don't know.
mm. I mean, all these things we're reading are so deep. We could, think about these for years and decades and talk about them for years and decades. So, I mean, we're just actually, we're just actually touching like one drop of this ocean. We're just touching one drop of this ocean. It's unlimited. But just what I was thinking is that Krishna has the six opulences of Bhagavan in full. So what are the six opulences? Called Aishvarya. Yeah, which is here. Aishvarya. Mentioned Aishvarya, Gyani, Gane. So there's called Sad Aishvarya. Sad Aishvarya is six. So he has unlimited beauty, unlimited strength, unlimited wealth, unlimited knowledge, unlimited fame, and unlimited renunciation. So because of that opulence, those six opulences, that is creating this ocean of nectar, in the relationships with Krishna's devotees, because Krishna's devotee is who is the devotee relating with? The most beautiful person. Who is he relating with? The most knowledgeable person, the wisest person. Who is he relating with? The most wealthy person, the most uh, famous person, the most, detached person. And even in terms of this, God is the supreme controller, right? But he has given that up. He is detached from that. Now he's being controlled by the devotee. So now he's being controlled. Krishna is the supreme controller, but he has vairagya. He has given that up. Now he's being controlled by his devotee. So even that is an amazing opulence, which is increasing the nectar. That Krishna's sacrificed being the controller and handing that control over to the devotee. And that's just such a sweet, relationship that Krishna's creating with all of these opulences, like Vairagya is one of his opulences. So that's also, so these scholars are looking at that all these opulences of Krishna and how that's creating these completely ecstatic relationships where Krishna, like I said, is so beautiful, so wealthy, so knowledgeable, so detached and everything. So that's just a little bit of my realization. Probably next year I'll understand a little bit more about what this means.
But yeah, it's good. Yeah, I think I like that part where you say he just gave up. He just left his all opulences, although he has. But the Vairagya part, where he has basically given all other opulences. I mean, this is different than this angle, but it's like he's given up all his opulences for this relationship. It's like
Yeah,
So one of the
yeah,
opulences is, as you said, detachment. So he
yeah,
gave up to experience the happiness of
yeah,
relationship. That relationship.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because
And
this verse mentions Krishna is controlled by his devotee.
Hmm.
Yeah. The exchange of spiritual happiness between Krishna and his devotee, in which Krishna is controlled by his devotee. So that's indicating his opulence of renunciation, because he's the Ishvara, he is the controller, but he's renounced that. Now I'm going to be controlled by you. Now I'll let you control me. So that's beautiful. I mean, you can imagine, like, these scholarly devotees looking at this pastime, think, wow, that's ecstatic. That's amazing. And he just walked away from being the controller of everything. And now he's like a puppet in the hands of Mother Yashoda or Nanda. It's like, wow, that's complete
that makes
bliss.
yeah, yeah,
But
that
at the
makes
same time, if he wants, he can just go back to being the controller. I mean, he's allowing them, but he even that's within his control. The amount that he's allowing them. Like even if you take the Damodar pastime,
But even Krishna is eternally controlled by Mother Yashoda in the spiritual world and Nanda Maharaj. Eternally. That relationship's never cut off where, okay, I've had enough of being controlled by you, Mother. Now I'm going to control. No, he's eternally, in that particular part of Goloka Vrindavan and Vaikuntha, in that particular place, Krishna is eternally controlled by Mother Yashoda.
but what I'm trying to
And
say,
another place, no, there'll be something different happening.
I know, but what I'm trying to say is, but even within that control,
Yeah.
he's got control.
okay. Yeah, now I understand what he's
Because
saying.
if you think of it from the Damodar, I mean, he's saying he's kind of understanding what I'm saying. Prabhu's saying that. But why I'm saying that
Yeah.
is in the Damodar pastime,
Yeah.
he's seeing Mother Yashoda struggling. So he's not allowed her to
In the
bind.
beginning, he didn't allow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's still got control. That's what I'm saying. The thing is, okay, he says, okay, fine, now I'm seeing you struggle so much. Okay, you can bind me. But that's also within his control only. I mean, he's actually never let go of the control. If you think of it that way. I mean, if he wants, he can just stop from binding him anyway. He's allowing means he's always actually got control.
He's doing both things.
No, I disagree. I disagree.
I think he's doing
I
Because
mean,
both.
it's
actually,
still
because
nice.
Krishna, when he's under the yoga maya in the spiritual world, he forgets that he's God also.
Yeah,
So
it's
he's
very
just
true.
thinking he's a child. It said, like, when Mother Yashoda was chasing him with a stick, he was actually afraid and he was crying and he was actually afraid of Mother Yashoda. If he was thinking I'm Bhagavan, then he wouldn't be afraid and he wouldn't be crying. But it's mentioned he was running away in fear.
Yeah.
The song is that he was running away in fear of Mother Yashoda. So if you're thinking you're God, you're not going to be running away in fear. You know, he was actually under Yoga Maya when he's forgetting that he's God and that he's thinking he's just the child of Mother Yashoda. He's actually, you know, in feeling like that.
He's playing the
So you're
part.
saying that the fact that he
But when
forgets.
he's playing the part, he's really in that part.
Yeah.
He's not thinking he's God while he's playing the part. He's actually
Yeah, I'm not.
fully absorbed in
Yeah.
that mood
Yeah.
of a child.
Yeah.
He's fully
But
absorbed in that mood of a child.
but
And he's enjoying that.
yeah.
Like anything, it's like an ocean of nectar.
Yeah.
That he's
And that's one of the last qualities. I mean, that quality where he's
well, I'll
got.
tell you, like let's look at Narendra, right? When you go home and you're with your wife and your kids, are you thinking of your role at work? No,
Yeah.
that's gone. You know, and when you go back to work, then you put your work hat on. But when you're at home, the work hat is gone. You're in your home hat, you know, and you're just thinking, you know, you might be the boss at work, but at home, you're not thinking you're the boss. You're thinking, I'm the slave of my wife, and I'm the, got to protect the kids, So like that, Krishna, when he enters that Vatsalya rasa, and he's the child, he's really the child. He's not still got his God hat on. His God hat is not on. It's not on.
Yeah, I know it's not on.
He's in the child hat. He's playing that, and this is the nectar for him. That's the
Then
nectar
how
that
do
he
you
gets to.
explain that part in that past time
Yeah.
where he then thinks, okay, Mother Yashoda's struggling so much, my mother's struggling so much, I will let her tie me up. Where did that come from then?
This is different Shaktis are doing things automatically.
No, that means
Parashat
he
Shakti.
doesn't have the Shakti. Somebody else has got the Shakti. No, it's not like that. Ultimately, he's the one who's got
Yeah,
everything. So he can just take it away, or he can
Anyway,
just give
unless
it.
you're in Krishna's shoes, how do you know exactly
Yeah,
what's going on?
that's the thing.
There's
You
so
don't
many
know.
things happening. He's unlimited. He's
Yeah,
unlimited. You
and that's
can't.
what I was going to say. This is very inconceivable.
It's inconceivable. It's
I
And
think
I guess that's what the statement is about the opulence
yeah.
role playing.
and the people, thinking
Yeah.
about the what's he saying?
Eh,
He's role playing. I think just as you said, example. If I'm at work, I'm a worker. If I'm at home,
Mm,
I'm doing that. But in the background, he's utilizing his opulences to do all the other things. But he's not breaking. He's not letting Yashoda Ma know that I'm increasing this by my potency. The ropes. It's just like Mata is from mother. He's Krishna. He's just a boy. But
mm.
he's utilizing his power. But he's role playing kind of a thing. That's what Leela. I mean, Leela. Would you say Leela? The word Leela means what? It's just performing some
Pastime. Yeah.
mm,
pastime. Yeah. So he's aware of himself that I'm Krishna, but he's role playing there. I think, and
mm.
he's utilizing, as Mata said, utilizing some of his powers, increasing.
No,
But
but I mean, it's said that Yoga Maya makes Krishna forget that he's God.
uh,
He actually forgets that he's God.
He might
And
forget
and
he-
Yoga Maya and Krishna's Shaktis are making all these arrangements for the Leela to be very enjoyable. So they're all of his Shaktis, like he has these, all different kinds of Karunya. I was reading about Karunya, the Shakti of mercy, and Jnana Shakti, and so many Kripa Shakti, and all these kind of Shaktis. They just automatically, create all these beautiful arrangements so Krishna can have a lovely pastime with his mother or his friend or like that. And just automatically everything gets carried out without Krishna having to deal with it.
So that's his opulence.
It's like, once again, Prabhupada talks about like the CEO, of an organization, he doesn't even go to the office. He's at home with his family or playing golf or something, and he has all of his, staff doing all the work. So Krishna, all of Krishna's Shaktis, they take care of all this stuff. We have to figure things out and think, what are you going to do and everything. Krishna's just enjoying with the devotees. He doesn't have to think about all this stuff. How am I going to deal with this and what am I going to do with that? The Shaktis deal with all that stuff. It's pretty far out.
But the Shaktis are not going to make him. They don't have that. See, like in that CEO example, his workers are not going to have the ability to just make him forget something. I'm not arguing about the fact. Yes,
but Krishna has given that to Yogamaya. Yeah,
has got that ability. I understand that.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is, ultimately, Krishna is still under control of everything. He might, like, when you're having fun, you might forget that you are like the CEO or your God or whatever. Okay. You're just having so much fun and you're like, playing and playing and playing. And you don't want to think about that. I don't want to know, somebody else is taking care of everything. So I'm in this, I'm enjoying it. I'm in this play mood, and I'm with my parents and I'm playing and I don't want to know about anything. So that's a different perspective in terms of, he's just enjoying so much. So he's forgotten and he's just like, oh, my mom's going to scold me and oh my God, I'd better be careful from my mom or, oh, she's coming after me, I'd better run. But it's never, and he's in that mood. So he's not going to remember, oh, I am God, so I'd better, suddenly become God and put her in place.
That would spoil it. That would completely spoil it.
Yeah, so he's not doing that because he wants to enjoy. That's his whole mellow, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is really deep stuff. This is really deep stuff. It's really fascinating though.
Maybe we are going too deep into.
That's so good. No, that was nice. That was very nice.
No, so it's good. Thank you very much. I think
That's right.
already. Thank you very much.
Hare
That's all right. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Have a good week.
You too.